Hi, let's look at an IELTS writing question, and this was a question, the replicated question of March 8th, 2025. So the academic students had this particular question in India on the 8th of March. So let's look at what the question was, the task 1 question, and let's also discuss how you can answer the question. So any guesses before we get to the question, what the question type was in task 1? Was it a bar graph, a line graph? Was it a table? Was it a pie chart? Was it a process diagram, or was it a map? Well, it was a line graph. So what you can see on screen right now is a question that appeared on 8th of March. Of course, yes, the basic instructions of the question that says 20 minutes on the task, writing at least 150 words, that's a major requirement. We also have to summarize the information, and here the keywords are selecting and reporting the main feature and make comparisons where relevant. So whatever main features can be seen in the chart, we need to select and only report based on that. We have the heading here and we have the line graph here. We have a key given here. You can see there are 4 countries mentioned: India, Canada, UK, Mexico, and each country is coded in colors. Like you can see, this blue line is for India, the orange is for Canada, the green is for the UK, and the violet is for Mexico. So we have the key given here, and the heading clearly says that the graph shows the total length of railway track. So these lines, like you can see, you have the year given 1980, 90, 2000 and 2010. Okay, and on the y-axis we have railway track usage given in kilometers. So these numbers are represented in kilometers. The unit is kilometers. It starts from 10,000 kilometers, goes all the way up to 70,000 kilometers. So it shows us total length of railway track used, and some countries, we know the countries by now, which are India, Canada, UK and Mexico, and the time frame between 1980 and 2010. So we have all of this information given on the chart. Now let's understand how to describe this further. First off, we need to be very clear with the structure to be used, and we know that we paraphrase this question to frame the introduction. So we just need to reword this and it becomes our introduction. So to reword this, we need to identify the keywords here. The graph, that's a keyword. Now instead of graph, what else can you write? Well, I can use the word line graph. Okay, so I can use line graph, or I can use the word chart, line graph, or just the word chart. Total length of railway track used. Okay, so how are we going to paraphrase that? Some countries, of course, we can mention the names of the countries because the time frame is given as between, and we can use from and to. So our introduction becomes rewording the question. After the first paragraph, our second paragraph is the overview. So we need to identify the main trends that you can see. Now quickly looking at the diagram, what is very evident? Yes, of course, we can see that the graph can be divided into 2 halves. The first half where we have India and Canada, and the second half where we have the UK and Mexico. And in case of India and Canada, we know the numbers are high, that is from around 50,000 to 70,000 kilometers. So we can say that the length of railway track used in both Canada and India was large, or there was more of railway track used in both of these countries when compared to the UK and Mexico, which had lesser distance traveled using the railway track. So we identify the main trends in the overview, and based on the overview itself, we divide the body paragraphs. In this case, first body, I can talk about India and Canada, and in body 2, I can talk about the UK and Mexico. Okay, having said this, let's see what we should be doing. So we've decided that in the overview, we will talk about the main trends. We've already seen that. The first body paragraph, we're going to talk about these two countries, India and Canada. So we need to choose 2 or 3 reference points. So let's look at the line for India, which is the one in blue. So we can talk about 1980, what was the status? It was around, maybe you can say 60,000 kilometers, or because the number is a little higher than that, you can say just over 60,000 kilometers. And overall, we can see that by 2010, where has it reached? Nearly 70,000 kilometers. Nearly 70,000 kilometers. And what is the kind of journey from 1980 to 70? You can see it's very gradual, it's steady, right? The increase, of course, it's an increase. So we can see it's an increase, but it is also a steady increase or a gradual, a slow increase. It's not very drastic, it's not a huge rise, okay? So these are the 2 reference points probably we can choose for India. When we look at Canada, we can choose the first, which is 50,000. We can also decide to choose this, which is in 2000. The track usage was close to 30,000 kilometers, but by 2010 again, you can see here, you can see a sharp rise, okay, to reach close to 60,000 kilometers. Okay, 60,000 kilometers. So we can speak about a decline, we can talk about a decline, and then we can talk about a sharp rise. So this is what we can do about India and Canada. Now on similar lines, if we look at the next 2 countries, which are the UK and Mexico, what can we see? We can mainly see fluctuations, okay. We know that we can begin with the 1980, the starting year. So for the UK, it was 20,000 kilometers. At the same time, for Mexico, we can see it was 10,000 kilometers. Now, in case of UK, it showed a decrease, or we can say it remained quite stable. So I can use the word stable here in case of UK. And by 2000, the number is 30,000 kilometers. Okay. So I can say from 20, it increased by maybe 10,000 kilometers. Okay, there was an increase by 10,000 kilometers. You can say it fairly remained stable up to 2000. That was close to 20,000 kilometers up to 2000, after which it reached close to 30, which is an increase of 10,000 kilometers. Now when we look at Mexico, okay, again there's one more point about the UK. I can speak again about a drastic increase, or I can talk about a surge, okay, in what? In the railway track usage, okay. And if you look at the line for Mexico, we can see it was close to 10,000, and find the final, which is, let's say, 25,000 kilometers. Okay, so let's see, based on these what we've just discussed, how can we come up with a sample response. So here is a sample response. The first paragraph is of course the introduction. So I've used the word line graph illustrates total length of railway tracks used in the countries between 1980 and 2010, or I can say from 1980 to 2010. Overall, so this is the overview paragraph. India showed a steady increase in railway track usage. Okay, this is a steady increase. While Canada experienced a significant decline. So we spoke about the significant decline. Meanwhile, so one line about India, one line about Canada. Now I'm going to talk about UK and Mexico as well. Meanwhile, the UK and Mexico had fluctuating trends, with the UK witnessing a sharp rise, okay, towards the end. So this is the part we spoke about towards the end of the period. Okay, that's it. Okay, so this is how you can come up with an overall. You're giving just an overall idea of the graph. So the first paragraph, we begin with 1980, talking about India, the highest railway track usage at approximately 60,000 kilometers, followed by Canada at a little over 50,000 kilometers. So here I've said 60 and here I've said a little over 50,000 kilometer. However, while India's railway usage steadily increased, okay, this is a steady increase, Canada's usage consistently declined. Okay, that's why I've used the word however, because two contrasting trends. While one showed a steady increase, the other showed a steady decrease or a consistent decline to nearly 30,000 kilometers in 2000. Okay, we've mentioned this value to finish off at 60,000 kilometers by the end of the given time period. Okay, so I've mentioned the three reference here. So for India, just the first and the last. For Canada, 1, 2, 3. So with these reference points, we've finished describing India and Canada in the first body paragraph. The second body paragraph, we're talking about the UK and Mexico. The UK and Mexico had much lower railway track usage in 1980 at around 20,000 kilometers and 10,000 kilometers respectively. I've used respectively because first I've mentioned UK, then I've mentioned Mexico, which means 20,000 is for UK, 10,000 is for Mexico. Mexico's rail usage surged over the years to 15,000 more kilometer from the original distance covered. Okay, so which means original was 10. So from 10 it reached 15,000 more. So plus 15,000 kilometers, which is close to 25,000 kilometers. Whereas the UK saw a significant surge after 2000. So in case of UK, there was a surge only after 2000, reaching nearly 30,000 kilometers. So here I've mentioned the point, 30,000 kilometers in 2010. So you can see in body 1, if I've said by the end of the given time period, in body 2 I've mentioned by or in 2010. So there's a lot of variations that you can use, your construction of sentences, the way you use these words. Now, if you can see a steady increase, I should not be using the word increase more than 2 or 3 times. I would say just more than 2 times. If one's perfect. So instead of an increase, I can then use, it surged or it hiked or it grew. Okay. So these kind of words can be used. So try to show a variety when you're using. So this is a rough explanation or a discussion on how you could have approached this particular question, a line graph. Okay, so I hope with this video you're very clear with what you should have written, and at the same time you're also aware of what are the things you need to keep in mind, how you can select information, data, and come up with a sample answer, roughly counting to 160 to 180 words. This is a good length we can maintain. So that's it from me in this video. Hope to see all of you soon in my next video. Thank you.
MedCity International Academy. Trusted hands forever.